Hello and welcome to the AT Center at TCNJ. This webinar series is facilitated by the Inclusive 365 team and focuses on inclusive practices. The Inclusive 365 team specializes in helping organizations create more inclusive educational environments. They are known for the book Inclusive Learning 365, EdTech Strategies for Every Day of the Year, and provide services to organizations such as book studies, webinars, and consultation to help educators develop and implement inclusive strategies. The team consists of 4 professionals: Christopher Bugay, Karen Jankowski, Beth Poss, and Mike Murata. Join them as they introduce practical strategies you can implement immediately in your environment to promote inclusive practices. This is Module 5, Inclusive Strategies for Executive Functioning. These webinars are made possible through our partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education. The statements issued by guest presenters do not reflect the stance of the NJDOE OSC. Please use your professional judgment when implementing strategies and resources within your practice. Let's listen to the Inclusive 365 team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Inclusive Learning 365 webinar. Today, I am excited. Chris and I haven't had a chance to talk together in one of these, so this is fun. We're going to be spending some time talking about executive functioning today and some strategies and some tools that could help you with that. As we go through, a quick reminder of this slide before we move on to the actual meat of the activity here. If you want the slides, that QR code will get you there. I would say scan that and hold on to the slides because there are some links that'll take you out. I know there's some resources in a couple of the slides. There's some tools that'll go to. So definitely you'll have all that information. The beauty of this is you can probably come back and get it. So
Mike, I'm excited to be doing this with you. Like you said, this is our first one together and it's always fun to present together. So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Here we are. We've already half introduced ourselves, and since it's Boys Day in Inclusive 365, I'm Mike Murata. I am from New Jersey. I am an AT specialist, inclusive tech evangelist. I could make up a bunch of other titles for myself. I'm also the director of our state's Assistive Technology Act program. Good to be here.
Awesome. Mike then traveling down that 95 corridor down there in the south, the top of Virginia in Loudoun County Public Schools. I'm the assistive technology specialist for Loudoun County Public Schools. That's the day job. But like Mike said, technology facilitator, educational experience designer, inclusive design facilitator, all sorts of different terms for thinking about what we do on a day-to-day basis, which is help educators design awesome experiences for kids using technology, low tech to high tech. All right, so you probably know this by now. If this is not your first video that you're watching, that we had the great fortune of writing a book together, Mike and I, along with Karen and Beth that you saw on the previous slide. That book is called Inclusive Learning 365, EdTech Strategies for Every Day of the Year. It's exactly like it sounds. There's 366 strategies, each one that is on a separate page that flow in the direction of strategy first, which means some sort of action. What are we going to do with the student or the learner, or what can the learner do for themselves that we can help them embrace? And then what technology can be used to support that strategy, with also this this underlying current of what makes it inclusive. Why is this strategy help bring people together in their learning spaces, so that there's not sort of a segregated experience? And then the most recent product that came out in June of 2025 was these tips cards. They are tips to activate inclusive learning. They are so shorter, truncated versions of the strategies within the book. I think there's 50 of those, 50 cards, and some of those cards ask some sort of deep reflective questions, but then others are very practical, do these sorts of things to help bolster your inclusive experiences. All right, so I don't know, Mike, we had to do a lot of executive functioning work to decide what order to put these, to put all of the series in. Here's executive functioning. Of course, anyone can jump around and you don't have to watch them in any particular order, although we would suggest the inclusive mindset one goes first. But here we are. We're going to talk about executive functioning. Then there was some more executive functioning work we had to do, Mike, to decide, well, what strategies are we going to share during this webinar, and what order are we going to put them in, and could we put them in a different order? All that is sort of a nod to the work that learners are doing in trying to organize their lives. And so shall we dig in here to what executive functioning means, and then get into some of those strategies?
Let's dig in. Let's hit it. This is a fun one. I like this topic. I could probably talk about this for a very long time. So I'm glad we have some structure to keep us from drifting away, because I want to demonstrate my executive functioning skills and keep it within the time we have.
Well, okay, so we hear a lot about executive functioning in our neck of the woods. There's always presentations about it. People are constantly talking about it in schools. But what exactly do we mean by that? Because it is a giant animal to try and wrangle, So we broke it down into some categories here. The first is, how do I plan for what I want to do, and how do I organize my life, let alone organizing individual tasks and how to get them done, prioritizing things and saying what to do now versus what to do later, or maybe what should I not do at all. Working memory, so that is sort of synonymous with short-term memory. What can I hold temporarily in my brain? Impulse control might fall under here, which is I have this reaction to something, and so I want to jump in and say something or do something or react in some way. And having the forethought to say, well, if I do this, then this thing might happen. So pausing for a moment to think about controlling those impulses. Being flexible in your thinking, and which is the opposite of being rigid in your thinking, and being open to new and fresh ideas, and being able to say, well, yeah, I've always used a paper-based notebook. Maybe I can entertain a digital notebook. Being open to that is just an example of that sort of flexibility. And then self-awareness and self-reflection. How am I presenting myself? How am my actions impacting others? And then afterwards, after an experience, reflecting on not just my actions, but even my own, my actions with others, but my own actions for getting my own stuff done. Did the tool I chose to do this, this task that I was working on, did this tool really help me do it, or was it problematic? Would I use that tool again the next time I do a similar task, or would I improve on it in some way? So all those are examples of how someone might self-reflect after an experience. And then the last one here is, everyone has mastered this, Mike. We are masters of time management. We never procrastinate, or no, we're also the masters of sarcasm. Time management. Time is the thief of everybody's productivity, right? So how do we help learners manage their time responsibly?
I always think this is the reason I like talking about this topic so much is the complexity of this topic and how it directly impacts everything else we talk about. Every conversation we have starts to work its way back to one of these issues potentially, and one of these needs that someone might have. The other thing that's tricky at times, and I spend time talking to educators about this, this is tricky because people want to suggest strategies that work for them. I want to tell you, Chris, how I use my calendar, and that's the way you should use it. But I don't want to use it that way. But no, that's the way I use it, and it works for me. And so this is really tricky. So as far as we look at this, as far as when we're helping learners, I think we also have to practice this flexibility of the way we approach it and say, you know what, here's an idea of how to do this. What do you think? I think we spend a lot of time doing this. I don't know that there's an area that we talk about which has more kind of, I don't want to call it trial and error in the worst way, but I want to call it that in the best way. This idea of here's a thought, let's see if that works its way into your system, because all of us have a system. Chris, both of us got here on time today, and we both probably did it very differently.
Yeah.
But yet we got here. So the end result was time management. How we got there was two very different paths to get us there. And I think that's interesting. And I've seen educators struggle with this, with the why don't they use Google Calendar? I don't know. Maybe that just doesn't work for them for whatever reason. For whatever reason. And I think it requires a lot of that from us. And it's tricky in that way.
Yeah. So here's a question to invite yourself as you're watching this webinar. When you're working with kids, do you say, look, this worked for me, therefore it will work for you? Or do you say, this worked for me, try it on and see if it fits for you? I think that second way is educators that do that helps learners sort of think through metacognitively, well,
Yeah.
what does work for me, as opposed to imposing something, because chances are, like you said, it won't. Not everybody's the same. The other point that I want to make here, Mike, is that oftentimes I hear people say, people with executive functioning issues, or people who struggle with executive functioning. And to me, unless you have a traumatic brain injury of some sort, we all and even them, we all struggle. It's part of it. Everyone struggles with executive functioning. We're all trying to figure out how to organize our lives and how to do that a little bit better, and how to wrestle with all of these things. It's always a constant juggling act, getting better, trying things on. New technology comes out that says, "Ooh, maybe I want to embrace that." And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you try it, and sometimes you try it and say, "Yes, that works," and sometimes you don't. And then, Mike, here's the other thing. I just want, because at least for me, so if it's for me, it's probably for everyone else too.
It must be, right?
You see what I did there? Is I find I do get into a groove for something, and then I don't know why, but I just fall out of that groove. Like,
Yeah.
I'm using this for a long time and it's working for me, and then I don't know if I just get bored with it, or but there are certain strategies that will come and go, wax and wane, if it will, as opposed to this is just how I do it.
Which is also part of our system. That's part of everybody's system for managing things. I mean, I think you're going to see things rise to the surface, fall below, and then they'll find that balance as they go. This is a tricky one, and it's also an area we think about with learners. I don't know that they're always explicitly taught a lot of these things. There's assumptions made.
Yeah.
Just put that in your calendar. Oh, okay, but what does that mean to me?
Mhm.
And so I think that there's that issue too. And then I think that we see an instance, and we see this with a lot of technology tools in classrooms, where the tech gets a bad rap because there was no system built around the tech. Like, oh, I'm not going to use that. That stinks. Well, no, it stunk for you in that moment. Maybe it stunk because you didn't have the pieces around it to have it make sense for you to make it integrated into your system. So I think you said it, and I like that idea, Chris, that this is a system. You're building a system of supports here, because there's so many things that are happening. Look at this list. If you sit and parse this list impacts every minute of every day. Every minute has this going. So yeah, this is a tricky one. It's a fun one to talk about, though.
Agreed. All right. So shall we dig into some of those specific strategies?
Let's dig in. Let's talk about some strategies. The first one we'll talk about, which I use this all the time, this executive skills questionnaire. It's from Dawson and Guar. This is it's a handful of pages. It's questions that you can have people answer, these self-reflective questions that give us a sense of where they are at in different areas of executive function skills. And then we can start to layer some supports on. I don't know, I feel like this picture is directly attacking me, but number 10 says, no matter what the task, I believe in getting started as soon as possible. And I'm telling you that the fact that it clicked 2, that might have been my answer. But we can start having these conversations and questions, and then I can see where I'm at. I use this with my college students. I use this with learners that I work with, and start just asking them questions and start to collect some of their information. And then we push this through. This is the questionnaire, which is at the link in the white box there. It was turned into a Google form so people could answer it. And then they could have these answers alongside kind of these statements to understand where they are and where they might need to create more systems to support them, and what that looks like, because this becomes this is your roadmap. I think this is a great example of a starting point, your roadmap to understand where someone is. Take these answers. There's our generative AI drop in this bucket here. Put this into generative AI and get some reflection from that. Ask it to analyze what it saw and how you could improve and what strategies you can put in place. But it's like anything else. We don't know what to fix till we know where we need support.
I think too here a follow-up strategy to this is you said, okay, now that I have this this inventory, what do I do with as an educator with it? Imagine going back and asking the person who filled out number 10, okay, so it looks like you are a fan of the tyranny of the urgent, to steal one of Karen's phrases. Like,
Yeah.
you like to wait to the last minute and then it forces you to do things. How does that make you feel? Do you like when that happens? Do you feel energized by that, or do you feel bothered by that? And as a sort of a, think of it from a coaching mentality, as an educator, asking the learner how they feel about these things or what they do differently or what do they feel confident about this, but asking those reflective questions. Because again, I think a lot of learners will just fill it out because it's a task someone asked
Right.
them to do, as opposed to, well, what am I taking away from this experience? Which is, yeah, do I really like waiting to the last minute? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do my best
And
work.
maybe that's the answer. By the way, when you said that, Chris, that's my answer. I'm
Yeah.
perfectly okay waiting till the last minute. I love that, actually. It's great. A little aside, I'm gonna take us on a tangent for a second. In a book called Everyday Instructional Coaching, there's a plug for it. 7 steps that you can use to coach other educators. They talk about this idea of procrastination, and they say to rename procrastination to strategic waiting. And I would encourage all of you to use that term now because it sounds so much better. And the idea, and this is what happens a lot when people are waiting till that last minute, you're actually analyzing that task in your head the whole time and waiting for inspiration to hit. And any one of us who's waited till the last minute, you know, when that moment hits, when you get the answer you're looking for, what happens? You fly through that task and you're like, yes, I got it now. That makes sense. And so they talk in that book about strategic waiting actually being a very good thing, as long as you're comfortable with the idea of waiting for that to happen.
Mike, I'll tell you, that is something as an administrator, but really any professional, um, that has learned the hard way, right? People would send you an email. People still send me an email or send me a message on Teams, and I'll go, oh, I can answer that. Oh, wait a second. What if I strategically wait? And I wonder, it probably about maybe between 10 and 20% of the time, within the next 30 minutes, you get an NVM. Never mind. I
Yeah,
figured it out. And it's like, yeah, right. They did that with their own processing. They didn't really need me to solve it for them. They
right.
needed me to strategically wait. And I wonder
Exactly.
if
And
that would work for learners as well, you know?
I think that's interesting. Yeah, it's great. So definitely check this out. Great, great. I think there's 36 questions in this inventory, which is fantastic. It's great. Check it out.
Now, speaking of inventories, this is what you were talking about before, Mike. So often educators say, here's the experience, okay? Here's the content, and then I need you to make this thing, or I need you to do this thing. And we're all going to use Google Slides, or we're all going to use PowerPoint, or we're all going to use this poster paper, or whatever the thing is. But that doesn't necessarily help learners realize, well, what tools work best for me. And what happens in, like you said earlier, Mike, there's so much technology that exists today, and you and I and people who have who are professionals have spent lots of minutes making mistakes, figuring out what works for us and what doesn't. You know, how many people have you know set an alarm with their phone versus set an alarm with their clock versus their watch versus their Amazon thing, you know, or their voice assistant thing. My point being is there's all these tools and you have to figure out which one's going to work for you. And then that multiply that by all the tasks that you have. And then what you said, Mike, is, are we really explicitly teaching kids how to do this? Are we giving them opportunities to think through what technology they have to make the choices? Here's a real, just practical one. I need to write an email. Well, do I use my phone because I could type that out? Well, this email is a short email. Maybe this is a long email. I'm used to typing on a keyboard, so maybe I should be using my laptop. But my laptop's, it's only got a few minutes of battery left. So what about my iPad or my tablet? Should I jump over to my tablet and do it? It's also got a keyboard, but I'm not as good on that screen as I am on a keyboard like this. All of these are questions that are rapidly going through anyone's brain when it goes through, I need to write an email. And we are making decisions about what technology will work best to get that task done. And like you said, how often does a student really get an experience to do that, or a learner get an experience to do that? It's put, like you said, make sure that this is due on Friday.
Right.
Well, what do I use? How do I,
Right.
So then even if you give them the next step, put it in your calendar. But how, like my paper-based calendar that the orthodontist gave me or that paid for, or do I do the one that is on my phone, but my mom uses Microsoft and my dad uses Google? So how do I balance? Like, all of those questions are hard for people to wrangle. So let's give them the minutes now when they're learners to help figure out what to do. And one specific strategy that helps you do that is having a little menu of what are some of the options. So this is called like a checklist for identifying tools, or a tools checklist could be a short version of that. But it's just a little bit of a, okay, we got this task coming up in school. Here are a handful of tools that you have that you could consider for attacking this task. And then this is like, I think you alluded to this too. The hardest part for teachers is then letting learners choose a tool, even though you think that's not going to work for them.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exact.
Right?
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Because it might, and you might be right. It will not work for them, but let them try and fail, and then ask those reflective questions. Hey, so how'd that thing work for you? Like, you chose that poster paper. What happened? I left it in my locker every day, and then we had a snow day, and so then I couldn't get it done. All right, so what would you do next time? I'd probably do it digitally on Canva or something. Okay, well, now you've learned, and you might have been thinking all along, oh, you're going to forget that in your locker, man. I know you're let them do it, right? Reflect afterwards.
Yeah. One of the great pieces of, if you see there's so many definitions of executive function that are out there, but one of them that I really love has this little chunk in it, which always sticks in my head. What we're trying to do is connect past experiences to present action. In order to do that, like Chris just said, the learners have to have past experiences. And if they don't, we need to give them that chance. And you're right. I don't know how many times I've seen a learner, I'm like, wow, that is not going to work. But maybe it will. I don't know. And it sometimes doesn't. But that gives us an opportunity to make that connection. Because all of us that have those systems, we've learned them over time. Like Chris, I'm sure you've gone from paper calendar to digital and maybe thought back and forth. I've done the same thing. So, we've learned those things as we've gone. The other thing I love about this list is, in the moment, a learner may not even think of 3/4 of these because of the panic of the moment. And now they have an opportunity to look through and say, well, what does make the most sense here? And have that opportunity to just take a beat. Like Chris said with that Teams meeting, someone taking a beat and then realizing that, oh, I don't really need your help for this at all. Having this list to say, well, what does make sense? And I think that becomes important.
Two other benefits of having this list is you can see teachers saying right now, well, I do this, but I sort of tell students. So you could this makes it visual. And then second, when you do have it can be paper, but I like the digital version because of the data collection. All right, when I have to go back and reflect and write up something, progress notes, or present something, I have this learner was given these options over this period of time, and they chose this the most frequently. This just helps you write the things for you.
I love it. Simple things, simple strategies. And there you go. Forms.
Do tried and true, right? Forms.
Run there. I think you're going to see in this section, we're going to talk about a lot of tried and true strategy tools here. So The other thing, and I bet this strategy could have also found its way to the research and studying section, but we'll put it here. And who knows, maybe we'll put it there too, just to reinforce this idea of effective note taking as a tool to support executive function, but looking at ways to do that provides additional information for that learner. Note taking. I'm sure we could take a detour now, and each one of us, if we were here in person, could talk about how bad we are at note taking at different times and the strategies we tried and have worked that haven't worked, whatever it might be. I always find, and I was just here, a little peek in my world. I was just cleaning my desk off yesterday because I found that it was just overrun with sticky notes that I just kept writing and I never did anything with. So I took some time and I sorted them, and I must have thrown out a dozen notes that I have no idea what I was saying, what I needed to do, and how to rectify that situation. So I just threw them out. I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out when they pop up. Because the written part was not connected to something else for me to have that understanding of what it was I was supposed to do. Same thing with our learners, is that if they're writing notes but they have no connective tissue, then it's a lost opportunity. It's a missed opportunity for them to make connections with that learning. And so one of the things that could be very powerful for them is the ability to take notes that are synced to the audio in the room. We could have a whole separate conversation about whether this happens in a classroom. Let's just put that to the side for right now. We can come back to it in a second. But the idea is, as I write notes, am I missing the key pieces? Or am I spending so much time writing that I'm missing the next key piece? And Chris has heard me tell this story. It's from working with a learner, and my favorite story ever. Great note taker. If you looked at his notes, they were excellent. The way they were written out made perfect sense. Then when you read the next one, you're like, wait a second, something's missing in between these two. Like, what happened in between? It's a dead zone. It's gone. And in talking to him to reflect on his note taking, and I said to him, how do you think you do with taking notes? And he said, not good. And I kind of agree with him. He was a high school senior at the time. And he said to me, his notes are islands of clarity in a sea of confusion. Little things that made sense, big picture, nowhere to be seen. And that was because he spent so much time crafting the note that he missed the next thing. So we employed some tools for him that allowed him to have the audio. So what is happening here is, as you're taking your notes, the audio is being recorded. The tool is still listening to the room. And all of my notes now are simply bookmarks to a moment in time that I can listen back to. Look at the picture on the screen there. That is a tool called MicNote. And it has notes that someone wrote, and there's timestamps along the side. At any point, I could click on those and go back to that timestamp and listen to not my note being read aloud, but instead the thing that was happening in the room as I wrote that note. And so now, if my note is poorly written, or I missed key pieces, I can go back. It's like a security blanket almost. I don't have to worry. The pressure is gone from note taking, because isn't that the worst part of note taking, is that pressure of, I got to get something down so I can still listen to everything else. This eliminates that.
Yeah, it reduces the cognitive load, which is relating it back to the executive functioning.
Definitely.
So now, if I'm anxious that I'm going to miss something, or I'm not going to write my note the right way, and now I've got both of those things happening at the same time, like you said, I've got this security blanket of, all right, wait, if I miss something, I can always go back. Or if my note didn't make sense, it's all right, I can go back. And it turns note-taking into a multimodal experience that it is still protected, so that you can get the content again later if you need it. Mm-hmm. And just back to that point of, well, should we be recording in a classroom? I think there's educators that say, do this, or they'll record it for learners so that they can have my lectures in college or whatever are recorded, so you can go back and watch it again. Yeah, the issue of recording, again, it's almost mitigated if a teacher takes the lead on it.
Correct. Yeah. And again, I think that's part of that conversation with that educator of why we're doing something like this. And could this be used for more than one person all of a sudden? Can I take this and make this kind of a UDL feature of my classroom? Like, oh, if anybody needs this, you can go back and get this and you can listen to what we were talking about.
All right, this seems like a simple one, right? Like you just said you have to-do lists, and oftentimes you put certain things on sticky notes, and I bet sometimes those sticky notes find themselves in a linear pattern of, all right, I'm going to put this first and this first and this first. And then I'm sure everyone has the experience, like my little Bitmoji down there, of a clipboard. When I was a speech therapist in the school, Mike, I was sort of, you know how like Captain America has the shield and Thor has Mjolnir, and people have these sort of iconic things that go with them. Well, Mr. B, the speech therapist, had his clipboard with him because that's where I kept all
Not
my
nearly as dramatic, but okay. Not Avengers level, but okay.
yeah, exactly. Uh, so so I'd have this clipboard and I'd have my to-do list, and everyone knows this. Like you write down your to-do list, and it feels so good. Oh, when you cross something off, you get this little dopamine hit, like you've got this stuff done. But at the end of the day, my notes were scattered everywhere. Meaning it was just this hot mess of things scratched off and arrows moving around. And then what did I actually write? Because my handwriting is terrible, because I don't practice it very often. And then I'd have to spend minutes, like you just said, I spent minutes reorganizing my sticky notes. I have to spend minutes rewriting my to-do list with the things that I didn't get to. So they have to go back on the list. And all of that is fine. Again, it's fine way of doing it. But turning it digital for me, when I went from the clipboard to a tablet and putting it digital, and in my case, it was really Google Keep was the turning point. Like you, I wrestled with, all right, I know I want to go digital because I know that's going to make it better for me for searching. And many of these tools still have that dopamine hit where you hit a button and it crosses it out for you. And you're like, oh, it still feels so good. But that also then keeps a list of what I did. Because once I crumbled it up and threw it in the garbage, then I forgot what did I accomplish? When my principal needs to know, what did you do? It's like, well, I don't know. Or when I want to write progress notes, or I just want to reflect on how, man, I did a good work this week, Well, a lot of my good work is in the garbage, but having them crossed off on the list, go, wow, look at all the stuff that I did, and that can be real boon for learners, who are not holding what they've done in their mind while they're working on that working memory. They can reflect back and be like, dude, look at all the stuff you did. You accomplished all these things because when you hit the checkbox in Google Keep, it crosses it off. But point being is I guess an adjacent point to this is I didn't immediately go from paper-based clipboard to Google Keep. I wrestled with Evernote for a while. Can I keep my list there? I then wrestled with OneNote for a while. These professionals are using OneNote. Why doesn't it work for me? What is the problem? I'm not a OneNote person. I can't decide what goes in a note versus goes in a notebook versus goes a page. It just was struggling. It was Google Keep that helped me go, oh, I can make what Google Keep is like digital sticky notes. And so this giant board where you put sticky notes, and one of those sticky notes, you can be at checkboxes and have it list. And so then I would do that. And as you check things off, it moves whatever you checked off. It puts a line over it and it moves it to the bottom, but it keeps it so you can see and reflect on what you've done. And so having a to-do list is important, but then also is having a what I've done list, or I have done this list. This also is perfect for your data collection to share back on progress notes and showing what either what you've done or what a learner has done. So don't sleep on having a digital to-do list. If you are paper-based, great. We're not trying to, like I said, what works for you. You can also do the thing that you can at the end, digital. We're living in the world of generative AI. You can take a picture of it and say, create it. This is a digital version for me and show me what I've crossed off. That could also be an option that works for you if you like your paper-based. Or maybe you like digital, but you like handwriting. All of those are different options, flavors. For me, it's Google Keep.
I agree. I don't want to pile on to Google Keep, but yes, Chris knows I'm a Google Keep person for sure.
All right, another one is, all right, I just talked about taking those sticky notes and putting them in order. There's an executive functioning thing that you're doing, Mike, is you're going, well, okay, this has to get done because it's due tomorrow, but this has to get done, well, sometime, but not right now,
Exactly.
Or this is a reminder, let me stick this over here. but you're putting things in an order from start to finish of what you're going to do. And that's what this is, a strategy that is moving things from left to right or start to finish. In well, there's a term for it called a Kanban chart. And Mike, I was just presenting this. I had suggested this to a student in or to an IEP team, and it was these two dads that were in the meeting. They hadn't met me before, but this was one of the strategies I said. Like, create a Kanban chart so this this second grader can put things that he has to do in order. And both of the dads, they leaned in. It was a virtual meeting. They leaned in. I saw them like lean into their seats, and I was like, "Dads, what did I get you? What happened?"
Yeah,
They're like,
you've hooked,
"We use Kanban charts in our business. Like, we're in a professional world. We use Kanban charts, and all it is taking a project, a small project, from resodding your lawn, to a very, I mean, any size project. You're going to put things in order from start to finish. And then the Kanban chart part is moving it from left to right or top to bottom. It's like, okay, I did this part of it. Now I'm going to do this part of it. And then I'm going to do this part of it. I'm going to do this part of it. This makes it visual. This makes it kinesthetic. You can reorder things if you did get it wrong. Again, Karen's word, mistake tolerant. You know, a digital tool like, why am I doing it in this order? I'm going to move it this. The other nice part about like Microsoft Planner, again, many school districts have Microsoft Planner. Many, and the teachers don't even know it. Wait, we have the Microsoft Suite. We have Planner.
Right.
This makes these for you. But the idea is that you can also then share tasks with other people. So if you're in a team of, we're all the fourth grade team. Well, and we're going to work on this project together. You can tag people with different things, or students tagging their parents so that the parents can be checking in. All of those, or supporting. And what I also love about this particular strategy of a Kanban chart, from professionals that use it right on down to preschool, is that all this is a visual schedule. You know, like special ed teachers have been using visual schedules since special ed was a thing. And before, it's just putting things in order and breaking things down to a task analysis, but it works across the board from across your lifespan.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's, to me, this is a digital version of sticky notes. Again, I have tasks when I do things that I have on sticky notes and I stick them to a wall. I still like that kind of tactile approach to things, but it is no different than this. Giving you that opportunity to move stuff across and see and have the satisfaction of, oh, look, I've done these things. Chris talks about this idea of highlighting or celebrating your wins as I move these, and suddenly the done column gets very long. That is a very refreshing and comfortable feeling to know, oh, I did it. I'm almost there. So, great stuff.
This one's going to be super quick, Mike. Most people are using either OneDrive or Google Drive. And most people know, okay, well, put things in folders, color coding the folders. Again, unless you have color blindness or issues seeing colors, then the colors are going to help you more rapidly get to what you're getting to. But then adjacent to that is actually throwing in emojis into the title of the folder, because then you can more quickly recognize. There's copious amounts of research about how people recognize and remember images more than text and recognize it faster than text. So imagine I could be a high school student, or I could be young, somewhere along, very young, recognizing those pictures, like, oh, okay, here's my science folder, so I'm going to put a little beaker emoji next to it, or here's my math folder and I'm going to put this little math symbol next to it. Or in our case, you know, we have a business, you know, and so there's a folder that has my business and has a little dollar sign next to it, or a money bag sign or something. But when I need to get to that folder, I'm not, which one is the title of my business again? It's boom, I open it up, there's the money bag sign, and go get it. Not that bag is really big, Mike, but still.
It's a medium-sized bag at best.
it's emoji size. But it's and inviting the learners to choose their own emoji that they can then recognize will help them remember it as well. So color code and emojis in a Google Drive or a Google or a OneDrive can really help.
And again, we see color coding all the time, right? Folders, physical folders in a classroom. Can you replicate that in other systems for that learner so that there is a connection across their spaces? Does the same color system work in physical folders in the room and my Google Drive and my calendar and anything else I might use. Maybe you'll use Google Keep, and can those colors continue on, making that connection and really cementing that understanding for that learner.
Wait, Mike, I need one more second here
Go ahead.
because people might be looking at the previous slide and going, what is Strahd and why is there an image of what is that? And so people should know that I am a big Dungeons and Dragons fan, and I was the dungeon master of a campaign where there was a vampire, and that vampire's name was Strahd. And so if you zoom in on this image a little bit, you'll see that that emoji is a little vampire dude, right? And just side note, this is not part of executive function. Well, it is, but it isn't. But role-playing games and getting kids playing role-playing games is a great way to practice all of these executive functioning skills, like, oh, what order am I going to do things? How am I going to approach this problem? How can I work with my friends to do this problem? Great fun practice with low stakes, where high stakes would be working in schools and the work that I have to do or my job. I'm playing a game, I can make mistakes and it's fine.
I liked right before you said that story that there's a big green box that said note the emoji. So you drew people's eyes to it and then never mentioned it. I'm like, yeah, Chris is doing it now. This is great stuff. This is good.
All right, this is another thing that I think everyone wrestles with, especially kids, but really anybody. Imagine you're in a staff meeting. Principal comes to you and says, here's the thing. Here's the math curriculum. Go ahead. We're going to do this for the first quarter. Okay, so now you have this piece of paper and you go back to your classroom. Where does it go? Does it go in the folder that is memos from the principal? Or is it stuff that's related to the math curriculum? Or is it stuff that we're doing in the first quarter? And because you have to make that decision, you're going to put it in a place. And then will you be able to find it again? Will you remember the decision that you made? And the next time the next thing comes, will you make the same decision or will it go in different folders? And this is why our filing cabinets and our folder systems are sort of antiquated, because it gives you the illusion of being organized, but you can't always go back and find all the things because you couldn't make the decision the same every single time. What sort of reduces that stress is labeling and tagging. What that means is when you're keeping things in a digital file folder, or in this case, this is a screenshot of Google Keep, so digital sticky notes, I can label those sticky notes in multiple ways. So it's going to have a tag of math curriculum, principal note, and first quarter of 2025, right? Or 2026 or whatever, right? I can have all three of those. And so when I go and search again, at any given moment, I can search for any one of those and it will come up. And I can also, like in Google Keep here, this is over on the left side of Google Keep, is a list of all of the tags. So I'm like, oh, right now I just want to go see all the things that I've tagged. I'm doing this presentation on accessibility. Let me go over and click on the accessibility tag and see all the cool stuff I've collected, or the notes that I've taken around accessibility. So it sort of strips away all the other sticky notes that are on the wall and just leaves whatever the tag is that you've tagged it as.
Love it. I could spend the next hour talking about labels in Google Keep. I could. I'm not going to, but I could. That's good. Focus me on something else instead. How about thinking about the ways that you manage your browser with your learners, how they're managing their browser? Are they using the tools that are there? Can they save things in the bookmark bar? So again, this is one of those moments where I would say to a learner, hey, these are the things I do. Could this be helpful for you? I don't know, maybe. When we're in schools and everybody has a Chromebook that you can log into and your things can follow you, suddenly I have all my stuff. I can log into any computer right now into the Chrome browser, and guess what pops up? All of those bookmarks are there. And I can now continue on and be just as effective as I was before. So thinking about that, how they organize that, what does that look like for them through bookmarks, folders within folders, and then bookmarks there as well.
Mike, I just want to say something real quick about
Yeah.
this. And this is one of those things where I think most teachers or most, again, this is a sweeping statement, don't spend the time looking at these features. It's again, all right, open your Chromebooks and let's get to the slide deck, as opposed to open your Chromebooks, let's explore the features of your Chromebook. I will say, who I think gets the most hits there is maybe students in self-contained programs
Mm.
where, okay, come on down. I'm going to show you how to organize your Chromebook. I'm going to organize it. The special ed teacher might do that. And so if you're a general ed teacher or if you're a special ed teacher watching this and you're a team taught, think about how can we do this experience for everyone in general ed, because how many kids also need that experience even if they're not identified as a student with a disability. Well, I think a theme of all of these webinars that you're going to see is that things that start out with people with disabilities or strategy or technology blossoms to be something for the rest of us. The tool on the screen here, Seeing AI, has been out for years. And what it is you, someone with a visual, was made originally for someone with a visual impairment, hover over an object or a scene or an image, whatever, you turn on your camera, and it then tells you what it's probably seeing. And now you see this with generative AI all the time. I use it all the time where like I was transplanting trees from one part of my lawn to another, and I took out my phone and like, what kind of tree is this? How big is the root ball need to be? Basically what I said is, what kind of tree is this and how do I transplant it? And then it gave me, well, this is the type of tree it is, right? Also, by the way, I got, not to gross anyone out, but I got poison ivy. Also, hey, what is this? Is this just a scratch? Or no, Chris, you have poison ivy. Same idea. Not go check a doctor, don't rely on AI. Don't say, oh, Chris and Mike said I can just diagnose myself with AI. But point being is, cameras can look at things and give you insights into what they are and what to do with them. And this is so helpful with executive functioning. Imagine you are at a job site, you're transitioning from high school when you're working into a job site, and you're at this piece of equipment and you bring out your phone and go, what is this piece of equipment? What are the safety things I need to know about it? Teaching someone how to do that and analyzing the response can help their tasks, what to get done, keep them safe, help them identify poison ivy, move trees around, whatever the task is, it's going to help. Yes, check with your family doctor. All right, next steps, Mike. We're at the end. What will we invite people to do next? Yeah, my moment of reflection here would be considering everyone right now and into the near future are going to be wrestling with how do we help students learn how to use generative AI, and helping them learn to use it as a thought partner for executive functioning skills is as a perfect segue into how to use it. The AI can't always do the work. And shouldn't do the work for you. It's going to do it with you. So imagine saying, all right, learners, you got this task ahead of you. Ask the generative AI, what are some options I can use to organize, to get started? How would you approach it? What are some things that other people have done? Those are the sorts of ways that we can teach people healthy ways to use generative AI to build their executive functioning skills. Great. I think that brings us to the end. We got a couple more of these webinars to go. Well, again, maybe this is the last one because you can watch them in any order, but
Yeah.
we appreciate your time and we hope it helps.
Thank you for joining us. Are you a New Jersey educator looking for support or professional development tailored to your district's AT needs? We offer free, customized training and coaching for NJ teachers, paraprofessionals, and families. From hands-on workshops to individual classroom support and small group facilitation, we're here to help. Visit us at atcenter.tcnj.edu to learn more. Have a question? Contact us at atcenter@tcnj.edu. Please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content on all things assistive technology.